Hi, I'm Danielle, and this is Chatter Out Loud, a podcast where I share thoughts and TV commentary, starting with one of my favorite shows, Big Brother. In this episode, I'm sharing a recap of Big Brother 23, Episode 3. So the episode starts with the recap of the HOH nominations, the teams, and as if we couldn't forget, Frenchie's promises. They show a clip where Derek X is saying, "It's hard being a king, the crown is heavy." I didn't have any more context to put that in, and I thought that was kind of odd that was thrown out there, but whatever. So at the kitchen table, the nomination ceremony is adjourned, and then they cut to the confessionals of Frenchie, starting with Frenchie. So Frenchie goes on to explain his nomination, sticking with the showman's killer. That's that title he's given himself. Then they show Kai as he is expressing how confused he is and how hurt he was because he thought he and Frenchie were together, in terms of allies in the game. Ozza and Derek F, they express the same sentiment, They're confused as to the nominations, and they just felt like they didn't even know what's going on. Alyssa said she felt blindsided and didn't understand the big fish speech. And then she goes into the have-not room where she's then comforted by Sarah Beth, Xavier, and Christian, her teammates. So next, the Kings are trying to figure out how to keep Alyssa safe. So they pan to Christian, and it's so funny because they're discussing, options to keep her safe. And then they put the camera on Christian, and he's messing with that hair again, putting it up in a man bun. And that just takes me back to my first episode I did a review on, or maybe it was the first impressions. Him and that hair, it's too much. So Kai and Derek F, Colin and Derek F, I think Derek F was sitting on the bed, and Colin came in and he was asking him, if he's okay. And this is the first time we see Kai get upset or emotional. So he started crying, and then he was surrounded by Ozza, Derek F, Tiffany, and Hannah, all offering him comfort. And I think one of the reasons Kai was so emotional is because, one, he thought he had a good relationship with Frenchie, and two, it was just the realization of him going home, and not only going home, but going home first. So again, they show Ozza expressing that she has no idea what's going on, and she's on his team, and he meaning Frenchie. So it's just keep that in the back of your mind. All right, so they head to the HOH. Alyssa, and Christian are heading up to the HOH room to confront Frenchie and figure out what's going on and how come she was nominated. And Frenchie was said that they are showmancing. I mean, showmance is not a word, but showman, just whatever. And he basically said showmancing is up. He's put the stop to it. There's such big threats. And this was an awkward moment where Christian says, well, it looks like we'd go together. He was just trying to, I guess, point out that he can understand why they're seen as a threat because they're pretty and they look like they go together. And he kind of went over to Alyssa and says, trying to get her buy-in to what he just said. And it was so funny because she said nothing. It was like an awkward silence and a pause. And I just find this rich. And one of the things that I'm seeing on the live feed, and they kind of, begin to show this on the show, especially in that moment. Christian and Alyssa, they think very highly of themselves. I mean, they honestly believe that the reason they're targeted is because they're both pretty. And that's such a shallow thing. But I have to keep remembering that these are younger people. And maybe just that they just don't have the mature. I don't know. It just cracks me up that they think that because they're pretty, their version of pretty. That's why they're being targeted. And I just think it's so shallow and just misguided. So anyway, they're cornering Frenchie, and it just shows the restart of Frenchie's foolery, where he realizes, oh, I made a mistake, and just anyway. Fast forward. After the break, they come back, and Sarah Beth is on the couch, and it was an emotional moment because she's part of the LGBTQ community. She's bi, and she just shared a moment of about her family and having acceptance of both herself and others, and she was just really emotional. So it was nice to see the other house guests offer support, and it was nice to see get a window more into who Sarah Beth is, So I like that moment. Frenchie. So after that moment, and that's a nice moment on the show, then they go back to the crazy, right? So Frenchie is walking around, literally putting his ear on the door, eavesdropping, looking pretty pathetic, or paranoid. I won't say pathetic, just paranoia, putting his ear on the door, thinking he's outsmarting everyone, and he can hear and he know what's going on, and no one's going to be able to fool him, and all of this other nonsense. So then he went into the backyard, and he pretty much called out Derek X. And I actually saw this on the live, and I was kind of impressed I was impressed how they edited that down. So basically, Frenchie's in the backyard talking to, I think it was Brent, Hannah, and one other person, but Derek X was there. And he pretty much called out Derek X, saying, yeah, I know you've been talking behind my back. I know you're in alliance. I know you're targeting me. And I think he was referencing him and Travis targeting Frenchie. It's just the same paranoia. Even Brent in his confessional was like, whoa, calm down, Frenchie. Let's follow the plan. So it just shows more of Frenchie's erratic behavior. He shares with Derek X his plan to target him. So Brent tells Derek X he can be backdoored and all this other stuff. So we move on. When Brent told Derek X he was being targeted, I thought that was a good move on Brent's behalf because he understands the element of the team's twist, right? So I give him credit for that. I mean, he doesn't want to lose a teammate because if their team stays intact, the odds are that they can, win a competition and stuff like that. If you knock out members of the other team, it kind of puts them at a disadvantage. So he gets the team's concept, and I understand how he's trying to keep Derek X safe by being in Frenchie's ear and all of that. But he stirs the pot as well. It's just that he's quieter in stirring the pot, where Frenchie is like a bullhorn, So then, this is probably my most favorite part of the episode. There was a high moment in the show where they go back into the kitchen, and there's Derek F, Ozza, and Tiffany, chit-chatting, and they're acknowledging, how, or I think they cut to Ozza's confessional where she's acknowledging how it's so just overwhelming and happy to see other people in the house, people of color, by the way, that share in her same culture, and that she's connected with how she sees that in the house, because there's I think it's 6 or 7 of them all together, people of color in the house, and she says it warms her heart to see that, and I agree. And then it kind of shifts into more of a quick strategy session where everybody's on board. And I love my people because they didn't even have to say much. It's almost like a code. Everybody understood the assignment and they just dispersed. And you can see how they're playing each area of the house. And I just hope that they continue this momentum. I hope they stay intact for a little longer, at least through jury. And I'm just happy to see this. And it's just also a peek inside the culture as well, because I love that they named it the Cookout. And I just like the camaraderie. I like the connection. I like seeing this, and it just made me. It warms my heart. So that was a good moment. Um, but as a good player, Tiffany, because I'm Team Tiffany, she made a comment that I thought that was so cute. She says that was the birth of the cookout. It began, but there only can be one player that wins, and she considered herself the grill master. So I just like that analogy. It was better than Frenchie's stupid analogies that he's throwing around the house. Yeah. All right, so, and I just wanted to end with about the cookout, who the cookout contains. That's Tiffany, Aza, Derek F, Xavier, and Kylan. And kind of like an honorary member is Hannah. I mean, she's being protected, not necessarily a member of the cookout, but she's part of it. Wink, wink. So everyone understands the assignment, and I just love it because you don't have to say much. It was cultural the way they just express who needs to do what, and that was it. I just love it. So go Cookout. All right. Now going from the high moment back to the low. Frenchie's back on the screen with Brent, and it just brings down the mood again. And he's making the final 2 deal with Brent. So Brent is steadily trying to keep his team intact. So he's throwing Travis's name out there. He shared that he would keep the first 3 guys he entered. Brent is throwing Travis's name out there. And then Frenchie is explaining to Brent how he's promised the first 3 guys he entered the home with, because remember, each of the house guests, they entered into the home in groups, and the group that Frenchie was in, he promised the other 3 guys that if he won HOH, that he would keep them protected for the week. And now he's realizing he may have to go back on that word, because it's like slim pickings. He's promising too much to everyone, and people keep winning, so he has to shift his target. And now he's just realizing, oh man, I promised safety to Travis, and now, I may have to go back on that. All right, so they fast forward to the start of the veto, not the veto game, but picking players for the veto. And this is where they pick the chips out of the little box. So Frenchie picked Tiffany, Kylan he had house guest choice, and he wound up selecting Travis, and then Alyssa picked Derek X. And of course, Frenchie realizes that's the worst case scenario, because both Travis and Derek X are now playing in the veto, and he's trying to target them both. The ideal thing would have, I won't fast forward too much. So the veto game commences. Derek F is the host. He's the MC, and he has on this bow tie around his neck. He is just so, it's not comical. That's not what I want to say. Just expressive, just so out there. I don't know. I like Derek F, and he's so cute. All right, so the veto is a tropical theme. It has drinks, straws, fruits. Derek was with the fan. Oh yeah, he had the fan and his bow tie, which I found to be over the top. Anyway, so it looks like it's a tropical theme, and it's more of they have to put together. I want to say it's like a puzzle, but not necessarily like it's a puzzle in a sense that they have to move the pieces to get the cherry from the top of the umbrella into the cup. So the cherry is the ball, and it rolls down the board, and the board is like this big tropical drink, right? And the idea is to take the different pieces, and the different pieces are like fruit. They look like they're fruit and ice cubes and straws, and then the cherry. So the cherry has to roll down the ramp, hitting all the pieces, and you have to manipulate it so it can go into the cup. So they have to arrange the fruit and ice cubes to get the cherry down the cup, down the ramp into the cup. Everyone had the strategy of starting from the top to the bottom. Derek X started from the bottom to the top. Bottom to the top. Oh, no, I don't want to sing. Sorry. All right. And we see how Kai is struggling, Frenchie's struggling. Claire kind of clowns Travis's performance, saying that he is making that team look bad. And she pointed out, which I think I pointed out in one of my premiere night episode, in the fact that Travis wasn't a selection on any team. He defaulted to that team. And I just loved how Claire pointed that out. Man, he wasn't picked. He kind of defaulted on that team. So I clapped, said, kudos, Claire. All right, so in the end, it's suspenseful and all that, and they go back and forth between the house guests and how they're doing. And in the end, Derek X winds up winning, so he wins the veto. They go into the reflections of the game, and it's interesting that Travis thought he was safe at this moment. But in his confessional, he says, well, I could be safe. That's if, and he emphasized if, Frenchie was a man of his word. But he'll soon learn that all of this is going to shift. Brent is using airline analogies to explain like how well his personal week is going with his team intact and the final two deal with Frenchie. These analogies. They fast forward to Derek X, I'm fast forwarding to Derek X entering the head of household room to chat with Frenchie. He's looking to build trust with Frenchie. And the one thing I can't stand is that they are editing Frenchie to seem like he's somewhat of a strategic player. And I knew this would happen because the foolery we see online on the live feeds, the way he's getting a good edit because he's not shown to be erratic or simple or anything like that. They're trying to imply he has some sort of gameplay, and it just annoys me. He's not a smart player to me, and the way they're editing him it's just not a true. It's not a true representation of Frenchie, especially if you watch those live feeds. So I'm of the opinion that there's someone in the editing process that is favoring Frenchie. I don't believe he's smart enough to think that far ahead. Some of this is by chance, and some of it is just erratic, And I don't think he's a big student of the Big Brother game, if I'm 100% honest. So it's just so frustrating to see this. But in life, this is how it goes. Sometimes, he's mediocre at best, and yet his portrayal is somewhat like he's a thoughtful strategist, and he's just not. Okay. All right. So Alyssa tries to convince Derek X to use the veto, and good for her, because that's what you're supposed to do. She's not going out without a fight, and I just appreciate her not giving up. All right. Let's see. Let's just go to the veto meeting. Derek X uses the veto on Kai, and Kai starts smiling. He just has such a pretty smile, right? So he goes up, accepts the veto award. So that makes since Derek X won the veto and he used it against Kai, both Derek X and Kai are now safe, right? So Frenchie can't put either of them up. So Frenchie's plan is just going. He's going to have to shift again, right? And then he goes up to the front with his stupid analogy about farming. And anyway, he winds up nominating Travis. So then they cut to the Outgoing Confessionals where the show is getting ready to end. In essence, Derek X said he had to use it considering his long game. Alyssa said she doesn't want to leave on week 1 because it's embarrassing. Travis called Frenchie a little sneaky boy, something like that. And now he realizes he's going to have to be a homie to all of the house guests to try to get his votes. Just homie. I don't think I heard him say that before, but whatever. I'm just going to move on. And then they show and air when Isa was calling this Frenchie's Funhouse. I don't want to give him that much credit. I'm tired of Frenchie. I think they're giving him favorable edits, and I'm just ready for him to lose power and move on. I mean, on the live feeds now, you can see how he's whatever. And the unfortunate thing is, I think we're going to continue to see this. So he may have a chance to stay longer in the game, because when people act like this, it helps the show. It's good for CBS, but for all of us who are fans and really don't appreciate Frenchie's gameplay, we don't like you, Frenchie. Sorry, we just don't. Anyway, so Frenchie's HOH duties are technically over. He has no more power, although if you let him tell it, he thinks he has an influence on everyone in the house, including how people are going to vote. I can't wait for him to have that reality check, to be honest. So I look forward to any type of blindside for Frenchie. Maybe not this eviction, but next eviction or next HOH, the upcoming week. I'm waiting for him to get his wake up call, and it's coming, and I can't wait. I will be here for it all. I'll come back to share recaps, thoughts on all of the gameplay that ensues. So be sure to come back and give me a listen, follow, subscribe, leave me a comment, leave me a message. You can find me by looking for Chatter Out Loud. I have this podcast, I tweet, I'm on YouTube. So look for Chatter Out Loud and you'll find me. I also have links in the description where you can find me as well. So you have to check that out. Okay? All right, so my name is Danielle, and you're listening to my podcast, Chatter Out Loud. Thank you so much for joining me. I always appreciate your support. And that's all I have. So thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.